actually so glad you can get me in. Like, I'm having a really, really, really hard time right now. This is my boyfriend's 87th time cheating on me, bro. And this time's with an actual horse.
No.
Yes, and he said it's my fault because I don't name enough. Like, what does that even mean, dude? Like, oh my god.
So, I'm going to have to stop you right there because I need to put up and enforce boundaries with you because currently you are trauma dumping onto me and I just don't have the space for that right now.
You're my therapist. You're supposed to help me.
See, you're being a major narcissist right now, and I just can't
What?
have that tainting my energy.
You
I'm
can't
gonna
be
have to ask you
serious.
to leave. Sorry. And yeah, you will have to
This is
pay for
absolutely
this session
ridiculous.
in
You can't do
full.
this to me.
Insurance will not be covering it. Sorry. Them's the rules. So sorry you had to see that. These clients these days, they get a little, if you catch my drift. But anyway, welcome back to my office. It is I, self-licensed therapist. Now, originally, I planned for this video to go out before my birthday, which is September 5th, but I got way too occupied with shaking what my mama gave me, and I am now 21 years of age. But anywho, due to the topic of this video, I think it's much better that it comes out in October. So if you didn't know by now, I love, 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 love Pokemon. It is the reason I get up in the morning. It's my bread and butter, my meat and potatoes. It's my inspiration. There's almost nothing I don't know about Pokemon. If it weren't for Pokemon, I wouldn't be here today. I don't know. But what we will be discussing specifically is the more competitive side of Pokemon, you know? I've always found it interesting, and right now it's just fine, but I do have some suggestions of how to make it more interesting. Now, I do have some notes here, and they could either make competitive more fun, or they could just cause rage quits across the board. Let's get into it. Had to change it to a short sleeve because it was getting hot in here. The heat where I live is absolutely no joke. But anyways, the first thing I want to touch on is what I would do with the type interactions, because I feel like that is the very foundation of competitive play. And even though types and stuff like that have been around the longest, it still trips people up. But anyway, I want to start with the ones that are more easy to explain. So if Ghost is weak against Ghost and Dragon is weak against Dragon, then Bug should be weak against Bug because there are bugs that eat other bugs. Fighting should be strong against fighting because fighters beat other fighters all the time. And now this is where I'm getting a little spicy. Psychic should be strong against psychic because someone with stronger psychic powers could defeat another person with strong psychic powers. Had to change it to a short sleeve because it was getting hot in here. The heat where I live is absolutely no joke. But anyways, the first thing I want to touch on is what I would do with the type interactions, because I feel like that is the very foundation of competitive play. And even though types and stuff like that have been around the longest, it still trips people up. But anyway, I want to start with the ones that are more easy to explain. So if Ghost is weak against Ghost and Dragon is weak against Dragon, then Bug should be weak against Bug because there are bugs that eat other bugs. Fighting should be strong against fighting because fighters beat other fighters all the time. And now this is where I'm getting a little spicy. Psychic should be strong against psychic because someone with stronger psychic powers could defeat another person with strong psychic powers. I also think that dark and fighting types should be weak against each other. Now, I really need you to hear me out here. Someone with evil in their heart could easily beat a professional fighter by pulling some nefarious tactic like, I don't know, pulling out a crowbar and hitting them in the kneecaps. But if you want to go with the narrative that, oh, fighting type in this instance means heroic and the dark type is still the evil type, there are times where evil does prevail over good. I mean, look who we have in office. Now, this is where we get a little bit spicy. Dragon type should be strong against, or at the very least, resistant to rock type. Now, I might have just made you raise your eyebrows right there, but you gotta just listen. If we're going with the logic that dragon types are weak to fairy types because of the whole in fairy tales, dragons are always slain, then it's a done deal because in those same fairy tales, dragons are always depicted as hoarding gems and precious stones. And what is a gem? A rock. And piggybacking off of that point, dragon types should deal neutral to steel types because in these aforementioned fairy tales, you'll often see the helmets and other pieces of armor from the previous knights that tried and failed to kill the dragon scattered all around the dragon's cave. Now, yes, the armor is often intact, but at the same time, it clearly failed to do what it was supposed to do and protect the knight from the dragon. And finally, bug type should be strong against ground type because when you really think about it, the ground is any bug's punching bag. Bugs dig in the ground, they make homes in it, they dookie in it, They eat from it, they have their children in it. Also, I think it would be really hilarious if a Galvantula had the upper hand against a Garchomp.
The weather is mine to command without limit.
So, weather and terrains. I decided to put these two together because after looking through my notes, I realized that on their own they'd be really short segments. And when you really think about it, weather and terrains are pretty much the same thing when you ignore the implication. But anywho, let's start off with the sun condition. I was thinking that dragon types and bug types would gain speed in the sun. Listen. Reptiles, which is what dragon types are, and insects, arachnids, and other arthropods, which is what bug types are ectotherms or cold blooded, which means when they feel the heat of the sun, their body processes things faster. But just wait, that's not all, dear viewer. Water and ice types would gradually lose health in the sun because the heat from the sun makes water evaporate and ice melt. And piggybacking off the whole ice melting, ice type moves would turn into water type moves because even if all the ice in your cup is melted, you can still splash somebody in the face. I probably shouldn't be talking about splashing people in the face since we're talking about Pokemon here, but you get the idea. In the rain, rock and fire types would gradually be losing health because for rocks, it'd be because of the water eroding it, right? Listen, I know eroding doesn't happen immediately, it happens over time, but this is Pokemon we're talking about. And for fire, generally speaking, rain does put out a lot of fires. Ground types would lose speed because it's all become muddy, and grass types would gradually gain health because if you've ever had plants before, you probably missed a day of watering and the plant looked a little wilted, but then you gave it some water and it perked right back up. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I couldn't think of anything for sandstorms, but I'm willing to hear your ideas and steal them from you. In the snow, dragon and bug types would lose speed because if you remember just a short while ago, I just reminded you that they are cold-blooded, which means they would move slower in the snow, the cold. Also, water type moves would turn into ice type moves because, water freezing and you get to throw the ice. Now, as for the terrains half of this segment, we're going to speed through them because, like I said, this is going to be a short one. And little disclaimer, this is going to be on top of what the terrains already do. So, for the grassy terrain, all Pokemon will become rooted or entangled, which means they cannot be switched out because that'd be a little fun. Electric terrain, if a Pokemon does damage to its opponent with a physical move and that opponent is a water or steel type, the Pokemon that did the attack will take damage as well because of conduction. Is that what you call it? Conduction? You know what I mean. Psychic terrain, physical moves will be cut in half. Their power will be cut in half because mind over matter. And misty terrain, just get rid of it. I'm so sorry. I'm not just saying that because I hate the fairy type as a whole, but there's no point. It protects grounded Pokemon from getting status conditions. There are so many moves and abilities that do that. Coming up with an entire terrain for it just seems like they're trying to fill their quota for things they need to code into the game. Burn, sleep, paralysis, frozen, poisoned, whichever one you choose, all stats conditions serve the same purpose, giving you an edge up by slowing down your opponent. And I certainly have some ideas on how we can make them more interesting. If a Pokemon is burning and it uses a physical move or it is hit by a physical move, then it has the chance to pass on that burn to the opposing Pokemon. Because when someone is on fire, chances are they may spread that fire to anything they touch or anything that touches them. Which leads me to my next point. If a Pokemon is burned, then they will become harder to hit because their evasiveness goes up. Because when a living thing is on fire, like a person or some kind of animal, they're going to be hopping and bouncing around trying to get the fire off, and it's going to be hard to help them. Third, if a Pokemon that is burned is hit by a rock, water, or ground type move, then they will instantly no longer be burned because the water will obviously put out the fire, the ground and the rocks will smother the fire. If a Pokemon is poisoned and they are hit with an HP stealing move such as Drain Punch, Giga Drain, Draining Kiss, Leech Seed, you know the ones, then there is a 100% guarantee that that poison will transfer to the opposing Pokemon. Think about it like spreading a contagious disease or biting into rotting meat or or that whole suck out the venom method that experts recommend that you don't do because you risk poisoning yourself. Also, ghost types can't be poisoned because you can't really poison something that's already dead. If a Pokemon is sleeping and is hit with a sound-based move or an electric type move, then it will instantly wake up. Also, regardless of its accuracy, any move will hit a sleeping Pokemon because they're sleeping. Where are they going to go? And ghost type Pokemon will not be able to be put to sleep either because in lore, ghosts are usually spirits that cannot be put to rest. And Pokemon that are frozen will also suffer the fate of being able to be hit by any move because where are they gonna go? But if they're hit by a fire, fighting, steel, or rock type move, they will instantly thaw out or break out. The fire will obviously melt the ice. The rock and the steel and the fighting will obviously hit the ice until it breaks because fighters use ice blocks to train. Steel obviously breaks ice. Rocks also obviously break ice.
Clap your hands and start to move.
We're nearing the end here, folks. It's time to talk about moves. You know, the things that get the battles going. I will start with my biggest hit that I will die on. Court Chain should no longer be exclusive to Cinderace. No disrespect to any of the Cinderace fans out there, but it just makes no sense. Why? Multiple signature moves is something for legendaries and mythicals. Cinderace is not one of them. I think Court Change would go good in the move pools of a lot of grass, ground, rock, and water types because they are quite literally the types that represent the environment. They represent quartz. They represent the ground or water around us. Earthquake and Earth Power should be able to get rid of things like spikes and toxic spikes because usually when the Earth shakes and splits open, usually whatever's on the ground or inside the ground usually breaks with it. But Hurricane should be able to get rid of spikes, toxic spikes, and Stealth Rock because apparently Stealth Rocks float in the air because that's a thing. Now, I'm not going to be greedy. This isn't going to be like some overpowered moves. Earth Power, Earthquake, Hurricane, they're going to lose a bit of power. Hurricane will drop from 120 to 95. Earthquake and Earth Power, let's bring them down to a good 80 power. You know what? I think that's fair. We're in the finale, and honestly, I would be a foolish fool, foolishly following in the foolish footsteps of other foolishly foolish fools if I made a video about competitive Pokemon and didn't talk about the Pokemon themselves that would be competing. And with the arrival of Legend ZA, I think it is most appropriate that we start off with Meganium. I have been a Chikorita defender since day one because I believe that no Pokemon is bad competitively, just trainers that haven't figured out how to use it. Now, I do believe that some Pokemon do need a little bit of help. Meganium is one of them. When you look at its stats and its move pool, it is very obvious that Meganium is supposed to be a bulky support Pokemon that can still stand on its own, but I feel like that potential isn't really being brought out, and that's what we're hoping to achieve here. First things first is changing its typing, make it Grass Fairy or Grass Psychic. That's going to open up that move pool a bit more so it can learn things like, I don't know, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Psychic, or Psy Wave, Psy Shock, something like. The next thing is changing that hidden ability. Leaf Guard, terrible. I was thinking something like Magic Bounce, Regenerator, or Triage. So not only will it be able to get Stab Giga Drain, it's also going to be priority thanks to Triage. Our next test subject is Regidrago. Now, when I look at Regidrago, I can tell that in the creative room at the Pokemon Company, they said to themselves, whoa, we made this thing way too powerful and we need to correct this before we release the DLC, and that caused them to overcorrect. But don't worry, I am here to recorrect. The first thing we're going to do is take 80 points away from its base HP. 40 of those points will go into its speed, 20 will go into physical defense, and 20 will go into its special defense. We're also going to decrease its special attack to 90 because although it is a mixed attacker, its move pool leans more towards specials, and those 10 points will be split evenly among the two defenses. Also, its signature move, Dragon Energy, it will now be able to hit fairy types because, it's just pure energy. But don't worry, I'm going to be fair and not be so greedy and reduce its power to an even 90 or 100. If I ask you what's the best bird Pokemon and you don't say Unfezant, female Unfezant specifically, I will do things to you that create an entirely new Geneva Convention. The Pokedex loves to talk about how much Unfezant loves to defend its trainer and, fight. And I feel like we should help it out, really show that personality. The stats on Unfezant are a little bit of a yikes, but at the same time, they're a quick and easy fix. What we're going to do about that is take 50 points away from its special attack because, let's be honest, they're not going to be using that. Put 25 of those points into its physical defense and 25 of those points into its special defense. The next thing I'm suggesting is a reference to its Pokedex entry, actually. The Pokedex states that female Unfezants are faster, and it's actually the males that love to do the fighting. What I'm suggesting here is that you actually give the female Unfezant a higher speed stat and give the male Unfezant a higher attack stat. You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Now, first I just wanted to make Unfezant just pure flying because I didn't think the normal type was doing anything, but then I remembered it'd be getting Stab on Facade and Return, and that's another thing I want to talk about. Unfezant's move pool isn't actually too bad, but something that I think would bring it to the next level is it being able to learn the move Bulk Up. And lastly, Unfezant actually has a good set of abilities, but instead of having Rivalry as a hidden ability, I suggest that we give it Guts or Gale Wing so we can get priority on, I don't know, Fly or Sky Attack. Now, when it comes to Aurorus, I feel like they realized they messed up Meganium to the point of no return. They tried to redeem themselves with Aurorus, you know, the whole bulky screen setter that can still stand on its own and deal damage. They were almost there. They were almost there because, you know, it has access to the ability Snow Warning and it can learn Aurora Veil. So they were off to a good start, but they couldn't cross the finish line. And it was just because just a couple things. It's physical defense. Let's just take 20 points from its speed because let's be honest, nobody was expecting this thing to like outspeed anyone. And then add it to its physical defense. Also, let's drop the rock typing. After Generation 8 and its fossils, there's clearly no reason to have it still be rock. So it can either be ice, just straight up ice, or ice fairy, or ice psychic. And I thought about keeping the rock type, and then I realized something. There is not that many good special rock type moves. I mean, there's Ancient Power, which boosts all your stats, but the thing is, there's only a slight chance of that happening. And then there's Meteor Beam, but at the same time, you have to charge your special attack one turn and then fire it the next turn. By the time you're ready to fire, your opponent might knock you out. So this is my petition to create a whole bunch of special rock type moves specifically for Aurorus. Unfortunately, I do have a dragon type bias, and that bias will lead us into talking about Haxorus. Haxorus is another Pokemon where I thought they were almost there. They just had that one little thing, just that one little thing that they needed to cross the finish line. And that is, for a Pokemon that looks like Haxorus, there's not that much in the bulk department. So here's what I suggest. Take 40 points away from its special attack because, again, let's be honest, nobody is using Haxorus as a special attacker. 20 points to its HP, 20 points to its special defense. And there you go. Also, give it multi-scale as a hidden ability. Nobody's using Rivalry. Not only did I save the best for last, I also came up with a new way to set up my microphone because I'm going to need both of my hands to emote to you. The best Pokemon to ever do it. The king of all kings. My favorite Pokemon. Number 497. Serperior. Now you might be asking, self-licensed therapist, how do you improve upon perfection? I don't know, but we're going to try. So, all of Serperior's stats will now be 200. Also, it will get access to the moves Draco Meteor and Overheat. And Contrary will still be its ability, but it'll be given a second ability on top of that one called King's Decree, where it is immune to all moves that it says it's immune to. What else? Serperior now gets a new signature move called Serperior Rules, Everyone Else Drools, where basically every time you use this move, the opponent gets knocked out and Serperior gains its health. Thank you for supporting the channel and watching this video. I had a lot of fun making it and doing research for it. If you have the game, are you having fun with Legends ZA? I certainly am. I just got done with the Zygarde battle and my lord, it was a doozy. But anyway, tell me your thoughts. Did you agree with something I said? Did you disagree? Let me know. But remember, we are strangers, so talk like you have some sense. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, share it with a close one. And if you didn't enjoy it,